Okay, hey guys, hope you're cooking in your new pan, and maybe you're finding that it's stickier than you want it to be, and that's pissing you off. Um, it will happen with a new cast iron pan that it's not perfectly non-stick, but and it will get better over years and years and years. Um, what I've got here and I'm going to demonstrate on is my really large field cast iron. It's number 10. You guys have the 8. So you can probably see what color this is compared to yours. It's a little bit darker than the brown that you have. But here, look at this pan in comparison. This is my 8, the size that you have. And I think you can tell, at least I can here, that this one is not as dark as this one. It's because I've been using this one a lot, and this is more seasoned. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what you can do with your pan. I'm going to do it with this one. I'm going to try to build up some seasoning on it. So basically rushing the process by putting on a few coats of oil. So tools for the job. The pan is on low medium for me, and my little laser pointer, which I love, says it's 300 degrees. It's great temperature for this. And I always use grapeseed oil. It's pretty expensive, but I only use this for seasoning my pan. So this can lasts forever, especially when you see, like, I'm only going to use a teaspoon of this oil, like that. And I've got an old dishcloth. You can use anything, really. You can just use paper towel if you want. But I really like just having a cloth around. It's already got oil in it. And I store it in this bag in the cupboard with the grapeseed oil. So I just keep using this over and over again. So I'm going to rub that teaspoon in there and all the edges, and I'll do the tops like that. Don't really have to. Just get that edge, really. You don't have to do the handle. So you can see there's a real thin layer of oil on there. And a lot of it's absorbed into here, so it's just real thin, which is what you want. I'm going to turn up the heat to, I'll turn it up to 6, which is like a little over medium on my stove. And what I'll be doing over the next couple minutes, well, maybe this takes 20 minutes in total, is that I'm gonna watch this pan, and I'm gonna watch that the oil seems to sort of dry out as the pan is hot, and then I'll just keep adding oil and smearing it around and watching the oil sort of dry out and repeating the process. And there may be some smoke, and a little bit of smoke is fine. If you get too much smoke, your stove's on too hot, so just turn it down a little bit. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do it over and over and over again. So I'll pause the video now, and I'll turn it back on when this pan sort of dries out. Okay, so about a minute later, I can see that the center of the pan's drying out. The oil's starting to look a little spider webby or like cracks. And so what I'm going to do is this is already kind of wet, or I could put a little bit more oil on like this. And then I'm just going to rub it around again. Okay, and up the sides like that. And I'm going to wait again. And I'm pretty sure oil doesn't evaporate. And so the fact that the pan is getting dry or looking dry would mean to me that that oil has bonded to the pan. And that's what seasoning is. Seasoning is not leaving food in it for like not cleaning the food out and letting the food layers build up. That's disgusting. Seasoning is where fat bonds to iron. And so as you cook with it and you put fats in it, olive oil or coconut oil or Crisco or butter, whatever you're frying in, that also will bond to the pan. What we're doing here is seasoning it without food, just trying to build up layers. You'll see videos online that will do this, but then they'll put it in the oven and bake it at 400 degrees or 500 degrees for an hour. And then they turn the stove off and let the pan cool inside of the oven. And that does work, but that takes a ton of time. Like each layer takes, I don't know, an hour and a half. I mean, for the oven to be hot and for the pan to sit in there for an hour and then for it to cool down enough for you to touch it and get it out and repeat the process. I mean, shoot, that's 2 or 3 hours per layer. And I'm going to do 3 layers in 20 minutes maybe. All right, so the center, it's probably, the video is probably bad. My camera's not that great. But we got a little smoke when I pull the pan off the stove, and it's a little, I guess the oil looks a little cracked. It's not shiny anymore. And so since this already has oil in it, I'm just going to smear it around and even that surface out. And let the heat go. I was on a number 6 on my stove, and I think it was getting really hot. I saw smoke, right? So a little smoke's fine. I just didn't want it to go too crazy. 415 right now. Thing about cast iron is this. The pan holds heat a lot. Not like a nonstick pan would. So in a nonstick pan, you have to keep the heat kind of hot because the pan is losing the heat all the time. A cast iron pan is getting the heat and holding on to most of it. And so after you leave a pan on like this, an iron pan on a stove at medium high, boy, that thing is it's gonna behave like no other pan. It's gonna be so hot, you're gonna have to turn it down. So that's what I did with mine. All right, so the center's drying out again. Starting to look a little cracked in the middle. And so I'm just gonna put another probably ½ teaspoon or something and smear it around. Get into the edges, that little corner with my finger. Okay? And let it go again. I'm just going to do this. Just stand at the stove, let that stuff bake in, bake on, and then just keep smearing. I don't ever want it to get really too dry. Thing about seasoning too is it's going to build up in different ways in the pan just by what's cooking and what part of the stove is hot, what part of the pan is hot. So it'll look uneven as you go along, and it'll be years before you get something like a solid black pan. I don't know if you can see in this, but there's certain areas that are kind of dark and other ones that are lighter. It's just the way it works. You know, it isn't perfectly the same color all around. And as I see it dry out, I just want to kind of wet it down again. And that is all there is to it. Okay? And then at some point in this process, I'll do the smear, turn the stove off, let it cool down, and then I'll do one wipe out with a paper towel. And it will seem like you've wiped all the oil out if you use a paper towel, but there'll still be a little bit of oil in there that you might even be able to see. It might even have just a little bit of shine on it. But that is all the oil you want to leave in the pan for the next time. So after you cook, you clean it, you dry it really well, you warm it up, you put a little oil in there, and then you wipe that oil out again. The home fry video that I sent you guys, or that I put online, at the end of that, it shows how I clean the pan. All right, so I've done a couple layers here. I'm going to turn the stove off. I'm going to let it cool down. Then I'm going to come back and I'll show you me wiping it out with a paper towel. And that's how I store it. After every use, I clean it, dry it, warm it up on the stove at like a low, medium heat. Add oil, wipe it in there, and then wipe all that oil out again. Again, you're not wiping it all out. It looks like you are, but there's still a layer in there. Okay, it's cooled down a little bit, not a whole lot. I'm just rushing it, like 200 degrees still. I probably want to let it go to about 150, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So, but the idea is this, like the oil is still warm, and so when I go to get it out, it will come out. If I let this pan cool to room temperature, 75 degrees, and then tried to wipe it out, this would stick because that oil would have started to just get thick in there and it wouldn't be easy to get out. All right, so just a regular paper towel. You can probably see the shine coming off where you would probably, when I was first doing this, I was tempted to leave that shininess on there because, hey, there's a little level of oil on it. But the problem is that's still too much oil and that will get sticky on the surface. All right, so it looks like I've completely dried the pan out, but as far as cast iron is concerned, there is oil on there. There's a little bit of oil, and that's all the amount of oil you need. And then I store them nested like that, so there's a little bit of air under each pan, just the way they sit. And I store them in the oven, but of course when I use the oven, if I'm going to preheat it, all the pans come out, but that's just where we have space. There's no space in the cupboard right now for these guys. Okay, bottom line though, hopefully you're still watching this video, but bottom line is use the pan. Use it even if you get frustrated because it's sticky. Because every time you use it, it's going to get better and better and better. And after, a dozen times, you'll be really starting to like it, and then it's just going to get even better from there. Bye.